Demeter is a painting about darkness giving way to light and cycles of rebirth and renewal in both nature and spirit. On a personal level, it's very much for me about the experience of grief and how we find our way back into life after loss. It's about standing at the edge of loss, seeing joy and renewal unfolding in front of you, and hesitating before stepping forward into it. When I began this piece, I already had a fairly clear image in my mind of a dark blue column standing back in the shadows, watching as spring emerged in front of it. That's a bit unusual for me because normally my process starts with surrealist automatism. I use my non-dominant hand to lay out the composition and allow intuition to guide me. But this time, the vision of the column came first in a more profound way than usual. I typically may have a bit of a rumbling that has leaked into my conscious mind, but in this case, it was a little bit more conscious. That image connects directly to my background in architecture. I used to work in classical architecture, and one of the ideas that always stayed with me is that the three classical orders, Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, are symbolic. They've been described as representing different life phases and genders even. The Ionic order, with its scrolls and more refined proportions, has often been connected to the mature feminine, and so when I thought about Demeter, the goddess of the harvest and fertility, her presence would certainly take form in an Ionic column. In Greek mythology, Demeter's story is tied to her daughter Persephone. Persephone is taken into the underworld by Hades, and during the months that she spends below, Demeter mourns. In that time, nothing grows, and the world is barren. When Persephone returns, Demeter rejoices, and the earth flourishes again. It's the mythic explanation for the seasons, but it's also how absence and reunion shape our lives. That duality is what the painting holds. The column, Demeter, is austere, quiet, and standing back, while right in front of her, and frankly because of her, there's a burst of color and light and energy that feels like spring. To me, that's what grief looks like. The world blooms, but it doesn't entirely feel like it's for you yet. You can see it and you can admire it, but there's a real pause before you can step into it. At the same time, the piece is not meant to be entirely somber. It's also about the possibility of return and the optimism inherent in that. The light and the movement in the painting are pulling forward, almost beckoning the column to join. It suggests that even when grief feels all-encompassing, there's always a path back into joy. So Demeter is about cycles, loss, renewal, absence, and return, but it's also about choice. The choice to stay in the shadow or to eventually step into the light. And I wanted the painting to hold both of those truths at once.